In other news, the ANC has in the last 24 hours confirmed the list of people nominated for the top 6 positions at its upcoming 55th National Conference, which will be held in Gauteng. Those nominated exclude the current Deputy President, David Mabuza, who was instrumental in how things panned out at the last elective conference at Nasrec in 2017, ultimately helping Cyril Ramaphosa secure the presidency. Let's talk about this now with Ebrahim Harvey, a political analyst joining us from Johannesburg, I believe. Sir, very good afternoon to you. Thankful for your time as always. So, David Mabuza, Deputy President, second in command in the ANC, not on this list. Not much of a surprise, but where did the wheels begin to come off for him?
Good afternoon. Thanks for this opportunity, and good afternoon to your viewers. No, it was never there. He was never there really from 2017. If you go back, you'll see how he came into Nasrec as a deputy to Ramaphosa, the factionalist truce agreement, that was made. No reflection on him, really. He has not distinguished himself, to be honest with you, since he took office in 2018 when Ramaphosa was sworn in. I am not surprised at all. I would have been surprised if he featured as the president or any other top position in the top 6, to be honest with you. I'm not being unfair with him. I don't think, he's top 6 material, and certainly not deputy president. You've got to go back to Nasrec 2017 and see how he became deputy president. So I'm not surprised at all. But there's far more important and interesting things about the nomination results that I don't know if you're going to probe.
We'll go into those in a moment, Mr. Harvey, but let's, on the issue of David Mabuza, if I can squeeze in 1 or 2 more questions, and then we can move on to the broader issues.
Right.
You mentioned how instrumental he was and how things panned out at Nasrec in 2017. I mean, he was part of what was then the infamous Premier League. He himself from Mpumalanga, Ace Magashule from the Free State, Supra Mahumapelo from the Northwest, and he basically was accused post-conference of betraying the alliance because he swung things in Ramaphosa's favor. So once he was deputy president, is it that he was not interested in the post, or he simply did not know what to do, how to leverage that position?
No, I don't think it was a lack of interest. It's to do with competency and whether he was objectively, the kind of person who would play effectively and constructively the role of deputy president. Deputy president of this country is really, I've got a lot of experience with this thing with Mutlanti and his experiences. It's not a major position, believe me. It's largely a ceremonial role. But with all due respect to David Mabuza, really, if you just look at, I think most analysts will conclude that he failed to distinguish himself to the extent that, delegates and branches may have wanted him to have another go at it as deputy president. And you can see the results are very clear. He doesn't feature anymore. And that is doubtful. That should tell you. There's your evidence about his assessment of his performance. The branches may be Girmakar in the ANC, but I think they have a sense of, as elections approach, who to go for and support. And the fact that David Mabuza doesn't feature, in fact, he wouldn't even have been there 2017. Was it not a rapprochement in terms of the factionalist divide that was tearing the ANC apart prior to the conference?
On that then,
okay.
You said there were other broader issues that when you looked at this list of 16 nominees yesterday for the various positions in the top 6, which stood out for you. What were those?
Oh, many. You must give me the time to respond to this. I just half an hour ago, I had an ANC interview. The most important thing, and I mentioned it in the ANC, this Morning Lives SAB is a prominent program, Prince Mashele was interviewed by Leanne about this very same thing you're talking to me. And believe me, neither Leanne, the anchor, or Mashele mentions the most important. I'm talking about the presidency now, not other positions of the top 6. The position of Ramaphosa is very compromised, extremely so. Nobody, not one analyst have I heard this morning, including Peter Bruce on TV, talk about how we're sitting on a political volcano right now. If the Parliamentary Independent Panel finds next week that there's a prima facie case for Ramaphosa to answer, and I'll be very surprised, honestly, if that 3 lawyers in that panel doesn't conclude we got then we're sitting on top of a political volcano. Do you realize that? I don't think people do. What is going to happen? Ramaphosa, there will be blood on the floor. I can tell you now, the other faction will exploit it to the hilt. If Ramaphosa is impeached next week, and despite it, he still stands, it's going to very significantly compromise him for standing for a re-election. Can you imagine the first president in post-apartheid South Africa being successfully impeached? I don't think analysts have realized what an earth-shattering politically thing it will be. Nobody mentioned it, and I'm saying to you now, I'm less interested. It was a foregone conclusion. Most of the regions wanted Ramaphosa for a second term. So the fact that Willem Kiezer scored so low and the digital vibes saga hanging over his head, I'm not surprised at all. Those are not big things, really. If you're the president of the ANC, ipso facto, you're the president of this country also. So that's the most important and powerful position. And the current incumbent, Ramaphosa, is in very, very serious trouble. And that's what we don't talk about.
Right.
What if next?
And I'd like to ask you a question on that, Mr. Harvey.
Yes.
When you say there'll be blood on the floor, and you mentioned something very important, the difference in just the high number of nominations that the incumbent has received versus Zweli Mkhize, the contender, more than 2,000 compared to more than 900, right? The ANC, and we've asked them in the hours since then what they're going to do, because we've got various leaders on the channel to say, so if indeed, in fact, my colleague Ayanda Nyati asked this question to Sibongile Pesani, and he said it was an unfair question to ask, what happens if that report next week says he really has to go through an impeachment process? Do you think the party will just wish it away and force it through, even though his opponents in the party are likely to use that if it does say he should go for impeachment to try and basically, perhaps even, upend the whole conference?
You must remember, impeachment proceedings doesn't, even if the panel finds against him, it doesn't necessarily mean he'll be successfully impeached. A lot of things, ANC is still the majority party, but I can tell you now, it will be a very sad and serious problem for the ANC at the electoral conference in December if he still stands. And I can tell you even more so over the longer term, serious adverse consequences for the ANC in the 2024 elections. I mean, we have to be honest with the facts. If those are three very intelligent lawyers in that independent panel, if they all concur or majority vote decides that Ramaphosa, it's a very serious situation. I argued on ANC this morning that in fact, Zweli Mkhize, what he faced is minuscule, let me tell you. Minuscule in terms of magnitude of adversity if you compare it to the Ramaphosa and Phala scandal. No president in post-apartheid has sat with what Ramaphosa is sitting with now, what happened on Phala. It's just unprecedented. So, you know, I think we need to take account of this really very seriously, and what the ANC is going to do if that panel finds that he's got a case to answer, which I think honestly is highly probable. Everything, we're really sitting on a massive political volcano, which I believe is going to explode at the conference. I believe it. Absolutely certain about it.
And how should the ANC deal with it between now and when that report comes out? A, in preparation for whatever the outcome will be, and B, to prepare if it is indeed an adverse finding against the president?
That is the problem, because his contender is Willem Kiezer. And his faction wouldn't want Zweli Mkhize, because Zweli Mkhize is tied to the Zuma. 2 weeks ago, I watched how he defended Zuma, I mean, ridiculously on TV, you know. And who else? To be very frank with you, you know, Ramaphosa has made a major dent in the anti-corruption, rather late over the past 18 months. That's why all these people are appearing in court. It's his signature behind it. Believe me, I know him for 40 years. Ramaphosa has played a major role. It's very unfortunate that Phala came out and, Arthur Fraser's, he is still, I am saying it now in public, Ramaphosa is still much better placed than Zweli Mkhize or any other contender for the presidency. But will he get a chance depending on what the panel finds next week? But the ANC will be committing political suicide, honestly, if they flatly are not interested and they don't care about the findings of the panel, that maybe he's got a prima facie, and they still proceed headlong for him to stand for election in December. And even if he wins, no, I think it's a serious problem. We have to see what's going to happen really next week. That's why I say, how can analysts analyze the 6 powerful positions, the top 6, and what's coming now, the ANC Electoral Conference, without addressing the most crucial question of the current conjuncture, I insist, and that is what the panel is going to find against Ramaphosa next week. It will alter everything in this country.
But as we conclude, sir, first question, is an impeachment recommendation for the incumbent Zweli Mkhize's best shot at the ANC presidency? And B, what does it tell us that the ANC membership through the branches in nominating people wasn't fazed by either the Phala Phala Farm scandal, the not VBS scandal, but the Digital Vibe scandal? You've got someone nominated such as Nomvula Mokonyane, who, yes, has not been found guilty or charged, but has been linked to wrongdoing allegations from the state capture process. Yet all of them, when you look at their numbers, they're among the most popular leaders for election.
Well, that is it. What did they do with Zuma in Polokwane? After Mbeki fired him in June 2005, they still elected him. They don't care, honestly, and it's a reflection of what Motlanthe used to often speak about, the need urgently for political education of the branches and the members. They don't care. Nomvula Mokonyane is a massive black cloud hanging overhead as a result of Minister of Water Affairs. Billions disappeared, lots of things to be answered for. She still not only stands, she beats who I think should have taken that post, really. Febit Potgieter may not have governmental experience, but ethically, honestly, and I know her not too well, but I think she would have done. You can see the wishes of the branches. They don't care damn in the ANC, frankly, and I've told this Motlanthe many times and he couldn't argue against it. They don't care. What corruption you face, they will go for you, and, you know, if they feel that you deserve to be in they'll elect you. They just don't care. It's one of the most serious problems of the ANC, the political culture in the ANC. How can you have that tolerance in a constitutional democracy, a high tolerance for corruption? So what is the ANC's talk of renewal all about? Tell me. What is it? So it's just amazing, you know.
Ebrahim Harvey, I'm sure you and I will have plenty to talk about when that ANC conference does happen in the days and weeks ahead of that as well. We're going to get you other